Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's me, PD, back with another Carlisle Cult Cinema Club Presents. And this time I'm honoured to have Steve Kostanski. I'm hoping that's how it's pronounced. I forgot to ask. The man who has directed so many great cult movies, Manborg, Father's Day. He done a bit in ABC's of Death 2. Chow Boys, which is just funny. Psycho Goreman, The Void, and he's got a new film coming out, Frankie Freako, and obviously Deathstalker, which we'll get to. But yeah, welcome to the show. The fantastic, the brilliant, the gore-tastic, shall we say, Steve Kostanski.
Oh, thank you very much.
Kostanski.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, you pronounce my name the way telemarketers pronounce my name. You didn't butcher it as bad as some of them. Some of them are like
Right.
the full on like Konstanski. So yeah, I'd say you were like 80% there. So that's
Fair enough. Fair
I think
enough.
that's considered fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So you're good.
Oh, well, that's all right then. That's all right then. No, it's an absolute honour to have you on the show.
Thank you
I've
for having me.
followed you since one of my mates brought us round a copy of Manborg on DVD and went, "You like this?"
It's definitely one of those
Yeah,
movies that like gets passed around like that, where people are like, "You like weird shit? Check this movie out."
that was
And
it.
that's what
That was basically what happened with me. Yeah, you like this, and I did. I watched it, thoroughly enjoyed it, and then a weird stalker, I went on Facebook and went blah 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 blah. Add friend, and
I
there we go.
I mean, you're like polite and nice to chat with, so like, I mean, that's pretty great. I find in the cult cinema world, you get a full range of people in
Mm,
terms of what their, um, let's just say, like, kind of online politeness level is. So I
yeah.
appreciate that you're a nice guy to chat with. So,
Well,
yeah.
I'm Gen X, so we know the score. We're polite, and as I said earlier on, it's not safe for work. So if you want to swear, swear. Just be
Sure.
yourself, and we'll have an absolute cracking conversation, I'm sure. And as I say, it's a real honour to have you on the show. And I've got to start with what inspired you to start making monsters and films. And I hope one of your inspirations was that kind of crazy French Canadian film, The Christmas Martian.
Christmas Martian. I don't even think I've seen that.
No,
Yeah.
oh
Okay. Well, I guess you can revoke my cult cinema card. I think I've
no, not
heard of
at
it, but
all.
I haven't seen it. I mean, yeah, it's like I get sick of telling these stories because I feel like they're all so painfully obvious, the stuff that I grew up on. Like,
Well,
you know,
yeah,
like let's just go through some of my earliest memories. Like I remember sitting on a blanket in my basement, my mom cutting my hair when I was a toddler and watching Ghostbusters too. So that's a good starting point.
it
I
is.
remember looking at the VHS box for Terminator 2 and seeing the endoskeleton on it and being like enthralled by it. And I also remember standing in the video store and my dad showing me the VHS tape for Empire Strikes Back, the version in the early 90s that had like I don't know if it was like the first release of VHS or whatever for Empire, but it had the nice painted cover. Like it's almost like kind of
Yeah,
I don't say Frazetta-esque, but it's like, the era of painted covers. And so like that image is burned in my brain standing in Video King back in Winnipeg looking at that. But also there was a show here called Movie Magic that was a
right.
behind the scenes show before we had bonus features or YouTube or anything where behind the scenes content was at your fingertips. Back then, you really had to dig for it. And so anytime this show was on, I would just plunk myself down and absorb every second of it because it would show the making of all my favorite movies. And they'd have episodes on like makeup effects or on stop motion or miniatures.
Yeah,
And so I just like loved all of that stuff. I didn't really think of becoming a filmmaker as a kid necessarily. or even like working in film in any capacity because it just seems so unattainable. You know, like when you're a
Mm,
kid, the concept of like Hollywood and making movies. I'm sure it's very different now with YouTube. Like anybody can like turn on a like their webcam and start shooting a thing. Whereas in the 90s, it was like very different, where to me it was like I'm down here, I'm living in Winnipeg, Manitoba,
yeah.
Canada, and Hollywood is like way up here in this like unachievable, like other country, other world entirely I'll never touch. But I remember my parents got me Army of Darkness on VHS, um, and it had bonus features on the end as the Anchor Bay release. And I remember watching the making of after the movie, and there's so many like goofy moments in it. Like they really play up like Sam Raimi being playful and silly, and like how I remember Howard Berger like talking about him and doing impressions of him and showing like the effects shop and thinking like all these guys are just in like heavy metal shirts and they have long hair and they're like just goofing off and having a fun time. Why can't I do that for a job? So that's how it kind of became a reality in my head was like, well, shit, if those guys can do it, surely I can do it. So I started making my own monsters out of like masking tape and like acrylic paint and hot glue and making my own little movies. Uh, I had a Super 8 camera that was my dad's, and I started doing stop motion with that. That was like my entry point into making movies was stop motion animation because at what was I 12 at the time, I thought like, there's no way I'm going to make like a movie that looks convincing with
Yeah.
my 12-year-old, 13-year-old friends. So at least if I do stop motion animation, it's like there's like a context for the way that it looks as opposed to like, oh, you're clearly like in your backyard with your friends, like trying to reenact Pulp Fiction or whatever. So, yeah, so I started with stop motion, but then as we got like a video camera in my house that I started playing around with, I started mixing mediums. I started doing stop motion and live action and kind of mashing the two together. And so that was the start of my obsession with like just constantly having effects everywhere in movies, whether it's like a makeup effect, a stop motion effect, a puppet, uh, some kind of like reverse animation thing, miniatures, VFX compositing. Like I was trying to keep it rooted in some kind of practicality. Um,
Yeah.
Even my current movie, and a lot of that's out of necessity as well. Like I just can't afford to hire a big VFX company, so I end up doing a lot of the stuff myself. Like on my latest Frankie Freako, there's a lot of like lightning effects in the movie, and it's all like hand drawn. Like I drew it all by hand, frame by frame, like in the style of like the lightning in Big Trouble in Little China. I love like how that looks on the one lightning guy that shoots electricity everywhere. I like went through and like examine that stuff frame by frame to understand it. But yeah, it's like everything I do has some sort of like practical effects element to it. Um, just because that's the kind of stuff I grew up on, I love, and I'm obsessed with. So yeah.
And VHS era was obviously a big, big thing. Well, much like myself, but a lot earlier. I was video nasties and the
Oh yeah.
original Evil Dead and that kind of thing. But obviously the VHS, which I can tell from watching your films, the VHS era plays a big part. That kind of 80s cult movie aesthetic. Um, you know, and you can see it with a lot of your when I'm watching a film, it's like, oh, that I recognize that from that, and which is really nice to see because it's just the nice little touches.
Yeah, I mean
And
it's a fine line to walk. I find like it's real easy to fall entirely off the rails into just doing impressions of other things. And I mean,
yeah,
early on as a filmmaker, like that's how you learn is you like you see a movie and you're like, well, I'm just gonna make that movie. So you just make your version of that thing. Um, but like as I've grown as a filmmaker, it's more I feel like it's more become like just the language, my filmmaking language is kind of like built upon what came before, especially in genre
yeah,
movies. Um, I feel like it's like, you're like writing an essay on a topic. You need to cite your sources. So I feel like with my movies, I'm always trying to cite my sources and pay homage and respect to, like the Sam Raimis and the Peter Jacksons and the Ray Harryhausens, like all the people that I
Yeah,
idolized. And part of that's just the techniques I like to use, and part of it's in the like style of storytelling that I'm doing as well.
yeah. Talking about stop motion, have you seen Chuck Steele, Night of the Trampires yet?
No, I haven't. Is that out? I remember seeing a trailer for it.
That is out. It's on
Okay,
Amazon, which probably you can watch for free now. And it is, you'll get it. It's right up your street. It's
sweet.
un-PC. It's silly. It riffs on every action film you've ever seen in the 80s and then some. It's got a great voice cast. For us Brits, we know a couple of the people who do the voices.
Cool.
Um, and Paul Whitehouse, who you'll know from possibly The Fast Show, if you ever watch The
Okay.
Fast Show. Um,
Okay.
and Jennifer, oh, do you know something? The second name's just gone from my head. Jennifer Saunders from French
Cool.
and Saunders, Ab Fab. She does one of the voices as well. And
Okay,
it's,
I'll
yeah,
check this out.
oh, it's out and it's wonderful. Another plug for you there, Mike. I know the director and I plug the film as much as I can. And knowing that you like stop motion, I thought
Oh, I love it.
I had to ask you if you'd seen it. So
Yeah, I feel bad for having not seen it. I mean, I don't watch as many movies as I should because I just work constantly now. This is unfortunately my
yeah,
life is uh grinding away in the effect shop building things while a movie's playing in the background so I can at least pretend like I have a life and make me feel like a normal person. Um, but yeah, I'll have to check that out. It sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, I'm a fan of anything that's animated in any form just because it's like, I don't know, I feel like there's an extra layer of effort that comes with that. It's
yeah.
not just people like running around in an alley shooting a movie with a video camera. It's like you got to like sit down and really think through what you're doing, especially when it's stop motion. It's very tedious. And so, yeah, I have a lot of respect for anybody willing to do that in any form. So, yeah, I'll have to
And
check.
oh, it is super. The filmed at 24 frames, um, which obviously makes it a little bit more, little bit smoother. And there's times you forget it's stop animation.
Cool.
I mean, it is that good. And yeah, it's super. But no, it's been out a couple of years now.
Okay. Is there
Um,
like a physical
that
media version of
there
it?
is there is over here, yeah.
Because I'd love to
Um,
see like, bonus features more than anything. Like I just would love to watch the making of if there is a making of some
there's
sort.
there is some on YouTube
Okay.
from the actual studio, and the prequel is on YouTube as well, which is a 15-minute prequel,
Okay,
um,
cool.
which is well worth watching. But you get that on the Blu-ray as well. Um, but yeah, there's a physical release. After we finish this, let us know your details, and I'll send you one over.
Oh, that would be so awesome. Thank you. Well, maybe let me look and see if there is a North American release I can nab first.
There hasn't
And
been yet.
oh, really? Okay. Then yes, I'll have to take you up on that.
There's just been a British release, so
Okay.
um, it would be an import job. So, but no, I can sort that for you. That's not a problem at all.
That would be
Um,
okay. Thank you.
no problem, no problem. But anyways, back to the interview. Sorry for diving in there, but when you were going, I could see how passionate you were on stop animation there. So I thought I'd have to just get a bit of a Chuck Steele in there to see if you'd seen it.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm
Um,
right in. I'll have to check it out.
and I think you would. Now I watched Insanophobia, and which I thoroughly enjoyed. I watched all your
Huh.
shorts,
I mean, they're
um,
all very dated now. Like that's like
but
mid 2000s. Like
yeah, but
that was
you
that era, that weird era pre DSLR where like the cameras we were shooting on was like mini DV cams. So like, yeah, there is a definite like roughness to all that early era stuff that I mean, not that I feel
Well, of
shame.
course it is, but there's still, for folk like myself, there's still quite an enjoyable watch, and it's nice to see that stepping stone from how you developed up to where you are now, which is absolutely, but no, I could. It reminds me a little bit of Eraserhead,
Oh
David Lynch, some of the
yeah,
animation,
that's high.
um, um, and but there was obviously that little bit of kind of schoolboy frat boy humor in there as well,
Yeah,
which
well,
was
it's like
brilliant. So it
it's
was like
also
the
like it's that movie was me kind of railing against everyone like wanting me to make a movie with dialogue. Because I have always hated writing conversations between people. It just doesn't interest me. And so that movie was me being like, okay, well, you want some dialogue? Here is complete nonsense from start to finish. Like, here's just people, like, they're not even talking like human beings. And I'm not even going to let them use their voices. I'm going to put other people's voices over their voices. So it feels like a weird anime, which in retrospect definitely diffuses the like horror tone of the short. But at this point, I don't care. I'm fine with it. It is what it is.
no, it gives it that kind of very 80s kind of splatterpunk vibe. And I've thoroughly enjoyed watching it, I've got to say. And but you did kind of go full Lynch with Carl,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, there's like Carl and then there's Heart of Carl, and
which I've
both are.
not seen Heart of Carl yet.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well, that one
so
is like
I meant to see Heart. I've got to say, I've not seen Heart of Carl, but I have seen Carl.
I was rewatching Heart of Carl the other day, and like, yes, it is very clunky. The green screening is awful. Like, it was my first attempt at compositing because it was like a bigger story I wanted to tell, and I realized like I don't have like an abandoned like asylum to film in. So I'm just going to film everyone on green screen and I'll build a miniature asylum. Like that's the kind of logic I have when I'm making my movies. I don't really think it through. I'm just like, how do I get from point A to point B? Oh, this crazy thing that's like months of work. I'm just going to do that. So, yeah, Heart of Carl, it's like rough around the edges, but I think the story is solid. And honestly, the like Carl Heart of Carl saga is a thing that I'd like to revisit in some form because it is like there is some like personal elements to it. Um, but yeah, Carl is like that was me, it was like 2005 angry teenager phase being like what's like the most in your face weird obnoxious thing I can make. Um, so yeah.
I wouldn't say it's obnoxious at all. Um, and it's certainly one for the stoners out there to sit and watch and ponder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I would
But
love
yeah,
to hear people's interpretations of it because it's a very stream of consciousness premise. I feel like my early stuff was way more stream of conscious where I didn't really care. I wasn't thinking about audience in any way. I was just like, well, this is the thing I want to see. And like whatever's in my gut right now that feels right, that's what I'm gonna do. And there was no endless workshopping of things. There was no like, didn't do like a table read of these shorts to be like, oh, how can we iron out the kinks? Like I would put the thing down on paper and then I'd be like, all right, let's go shoot it. And then we'd shoot it. So it's like, if I was a pretentious asshole, I'd call that pure cinema because there's no like it's not being like filtered in any way. It's just me like whatever came into my head, that's what I shot, and there was no obstacles uh, in the way.
do you know something? I would never have called it pretentious, and I'm not a fan of pretentious cinema at all. I don't mind Lynch because I watched Lynch before I knew what pretentious was. When
Yeah,
I was younger, I'd seen Eraserhead when I was, an Elephant Man and stuff like that when I was way young.
yeah. I mean, Lynch is definitely an exception. Even like I wouldn't say I'm like his biggest fan. Like I feel like the other Astron guys are like insane Lynch heads compared to me. But like he's definitely something I've aged into. Like the more I watch his stuff, the more I
Yeah,
appreciate the like the humor behind all of it. Like I didn't realize how funny he is. Um, and like, yeah, maybe initially stuff is like a little more abrasive if you're just coming into it cold, but like some stuff upon rewatch, I'm really like enjoying his like kind of fuck with the audience attitude that he has. It's like, yeah, again, pure cinema, I would say, for that guy.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, he's made some absolute fantastic films. He has that
Yeah.
have puzzled audiences still to this day.
Well,
Um,
he's making what he wants to make, which right now, to me, like as I grind away on movies that have enough money that I have to navigate like studios and streamers and things, it's like being able to just make the thing that you want to make and be passionate and enjoy doing that
yeah,
really is the like that's the goal that everyone is reaching towards. And that's what all filmmaking should be. Having to navigate studios and stuff is not conducive to any positive creative energy, I gotta
no,
say.
I can't imagine it is, to be honest, because I can imagine the kind of studio system would grind you down a bit. But I mean, you've been quite lucky. You'll have worked out, been able to make exactly what you've kind of, or to just about what you've wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some director for hire jobs in there, which I actually enjoy. I think the issue for me is like I want to either know, like I just need to know where I stand. Am I hired to make a product, like a movie or a TV series or something, and I answer to someone, so I'm essentially delivering on an expectation, or am I making
Yeah,
the movie I want to make and the system is supporting me? Like I want one or the other. I'm happy to go in and be like help other people help a a TV channel or streamer or whatever make this thing that they want to make. Like if they brought me a script and we're like, make this movie, here's how we want it. Great. That's doable. Like because I know where I stand. And then on the other side of the coin, it's like I want if I want to make the movies that I'm passionate about, then I want the support to just make the vision that's in my head. It's when you get in between that it gets really frustrating where I'm trying to execute a vision that I have and then people start weaseling their ways in and trying to like be like, oh, well, maybe the audience wants that, like trying to explain to me what they think people want to see. And
yeah,
it's like, I feel like at this point, me and a lot of other genre filmmakers, especially, have proven that people don't really know what they want until they get it.
yeah,
Like I refer to Psycho Goreman as the example of that. It's like that movie was completely independently financed. There was uh no like studio streamer interference on any level. And I guarantee you that if we tried to go through proper channels to make that movie, it wouldn't have happened. Because we would have gotten notes like, oh, the girl's like too abrasive and obnoxious. And like, you know, the monster isn't macho enough. Like why is he gay all of a sudden? You know, like I feel like people would bump on that and like I find that the system would like sand off all the edges until you just have like kind of like a thing that's devoid of the charm that it should have, you know?
yeah,
So that's why I think I'll forever be doomed to like make movies. Like if I want to make my movies the way I want to make them, they're just going to be budget things where I'm doing half the work myself and I'm animating stop motion puppets in my basement alone and animating lightning myself, but at least I'm making the movie I want to make, and it's like
yeah. That's
the
it.
story I want to tell up and tell it. But at the same time, I will happily go and like direct an episode of whatever TV show, um, and be passionate and engaged in that. Because to me, it's like I do enjoy the collaborative process. I think it's just knowing the parameters of whatever creative situation I'm in allows
Yeah.
me to allows me to like switch my brain into whatever mode it needs to be. Am I helping other people execute their vision or are they helping me execute my vision? So, yeah.
I think the only one of the only other things I've not seen is Divorced Dad. which you done an episode. But
Okay.
I did watch Day of the Dead, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed the show, even though it really had nothing to do with anything to do with Romero, bar zombies.
At a certain point, I like appreciated that. At first, I was because I mean I'm a huge Romero fan, and I like said no, or I said sorry, said yes immediately to that job, just purely on name and like
Yeah,
just like cool, I get to like be involved in this. And like the deeper I got and the more I saw that it was like its own thing, obviously my gut reaction was like, oh, like that's why aren't we in the like in that mine the whole time? Where's the military guys? But then I realized like,
Wes
well, like what,
Rhodes.
but also like what's the point in just doing that? You know, like it's to me that's that kind of like early juvenile filmmaking I was talking about before, where it's like, oh, I like that thing, just make it again. And at
Yeah,
least this show, I feel like it did its own thing and was clever in its own fun way. And I felt like there were still ways to like inject Romero-ness into it, uh, and still give it like a bit of that flavor without just being a retread. Because
yeah,
that really to me is like the worst thing you can do now is like just make the same thing again. Like I would rather something that's wildly different and maybe like doesn't land in every way you want it to, but is at least like interesting and worth discussing than something that's just like, oh, here's the same thing again. Like, what's the conversation with that, even? You know, like, I
yeah,
feel like there's nothing to discuss when you're just producing a copy of an existing thing. But if you're putting your own stamp on it and making something like weird and offbeat and interesting, like there's conversation to be had at least. And I
yes.
feel like that is the lifeblood of the genre community is being able to talk about things and praise things and bitch about things. Like that's what the whole culture is now. So yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, a lot of the cult movie culture is quite toxic as well. Which
Oh, I've
is
noticed. I've had
oh,
my
which
death threats and people telling me to
oh,
like people telling me that I should never make movies again. Like it's cool. It's really
yeah,
fun. Really really rewarding when you put in like years of work on a movie and then
and then
somebody on
some
Grand
asshole
message
does that.
you.
What a fucking that grinds my gears up because you were a fantastic filmmaker. You make incredibly fun films that I can see you put a lot of passion into the stuff you make yourself that you've, written and directed and done the effects for. You can see the passions there, and that's why I enjoy them. You know what
Well,
I
yeah,
mean?
that's what it is to me is like, especially nowadays where there's like we all hate using this word, but like there's so much content that it's just like at a like the stuff for me that stands out is when yeah, it's like handmade and like clearly somebody had to make the thing. Like I was rewatching Team America the other day, and I love that movie. And I love it
Yeah,
not just because it's like a goofy, hilarious, like dumb comedy, but it's also like every shot of that movie is beautiful, and it's all like handmade puppets and like all the like set design and just everything about it, all the miniatures. It's all just so like wonderfully crafted, and it just like warms my heart looking at it because I'm like, oh, a lot of like really talented people made all this great stuff. So one puppet could tell another puppet to suck his dick. Like that to me is that's movie magic. I love that.
well,
So
you'll thoroughly enjoy Chuck Steele.
if it's anywhere in the Team America vein, I'm right into it.
You'll love it. It's incredibly funny. Just me thinking about bits in it, it just makes me chuckle. But obviously going through some of your shots and that, Goreblade, obviously influenced by Deathstalker, even down to the font and colour of the title, which was obviously based off the VHS boxes or the artwork of the posters.
Yeah.
So it's all coming full circle with you directing, obviously, the new Deathstalker movie. And it was also nice to see a bit of a Krull reference in there with the Cyclops, um, which
Oh yeah.
which is
Yeah,
really
there's
nice.
I mean that like I think back on that era, the Goreblade era, and like I was just so excited making that stuff. That's like the happiest I've been is like making that Cyclops and just all kinds of like just the creature stuff that we did, that like flying eye guy, uh, who I should say I've like kind of reworked and re-envisioned, and that character does appear in Deathstalker. So there is like a flying eye creature that is kind of omnipresent throughout the movie, much like that thing that shows up at the end of that one episode of Deathstalker that shoots lasers. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like that was such a fun era because all we did was passionately talk about movies and then excitedly cobble together our little shorts, and just the idea of like making our own little community where we entered the conversation, the filmmaking conversation with our own stuff. And especially in that era, like it sure makes me feel old to say this now, but it's like we were definitely tapping into something back in like 2006, 2007 before it really took off. The I like Grindhouse is such a
I know
like
what
kind
you're
of
saying.
it's like a gross all-encompassing thing, and I don't even like to
Yeah.
necessarily like video store culture, but it's just like genre movies from 70s, 80s, 90s uh that were like pre-CG. Like we all were really passionate about those movies and just wanted to make our own versions of those things. And especially like with the Astron 6 team, it was such a funny mix of people executing all this stuff together that it like yes, it was an homage a lot of times, but being filtered through five weirdos definitely made it into its own thing. So that's what was fun about it. It was like kind of taking like a bunch of old beat up VHS tapes and like putting them through a meat grinder, and like what came out the other end was like the Astron 6 version of all these things. And
Which you can completely see, and it's a joy to watch. Being a VHS kid who still collects VHS, by the way, because I'm
same.
that sad. You know what I
It's
mean?
not sad.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It isn't. And I've just finally finished. I've got all of the 72 UK video nasties
Oh,
on
whoa.
VHS, on original VHS.
That's
So
sweet.
I'm happy with them, and I've got a good collection of tapes from that era because I spent my life in a video shop, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely spent most of my childhood in them, or at least my memories treat it as though I spent most of my childhood
Yeah, yeah.
walking through video store aisle. But like, I don't, I think part of it too is like, I wonder if it's comparable for kids like nowadays, like first starting to like dip their toes into internet culture where it's just so much stuff. Because I remember as a kid being in the video store and just thinking it was like I was just in this like endless sea of options. And I felt like I was never going to run out of movies to watch. There was just always something new every time I went in. And not just a movie, but it's like, oh, you like that Lethal Weapon movie? Well, here's three more of that movie. Oh, you like
Yeah,
that Phantasm? Like, here's three more of those. Like the franchise stuff of that era was like being a kid and seeing like, oh, I'm not just watching a movie. It's like I'm going on a whole journey here, and I gotta like basically like hunker down and devote like 8 hours to this. So I mean, I guess like streaming shows and stuff are equivalent to that now. Um, but yeah, it was such a like information overload as a kid that I think it like snapped something in my brain, and like can't I can't escape that fascination with it because it really was like it I don't know, it just like pointed me in a direction that I haven't gone off of since.
yeah. I'm completely the same. The whole aesthetic of the Carlisle Cult Cinema Club is based around VHS, um, and that's what I when I make up promos and even my basic because I'm garbage at doing anything, to be fair. But it's all based around VHS and that whole
Sure.
thing. I just I love it. I do. Um,
I mean,
even the
there's just
radio.
something like
Sorry.
something about VHS boxes is just so appealing too. Like, and this is I feel like everybody rails on this now, so this is like an old hat conversation, but like box art and just not just like the front of the box, but like everything about it was such an kind of extra textual component to movies that it was never just, oh, you're watching a movie. It's not, you're not on a streamer, you just hit play and it plays. It's like you got to go
That's it.
pick up the thing. You're like looking at the thing and the thing's trying to sell you as hard as it can. It's
And
like having like the description on the back, try and like I don't know, it's almost like a used car salesman trying to like give you its pitch every time. And like reading that, examining the art and making the conscious decision of like, yeah, this is for me. Like you're making like a purchase every time. It's like I'm going to spend
yeah,
money and I'm now going to this is my evening. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go put this tape in and I'm going to watch this thing. And like that was such a key component to me of the whole movie watching experience that like not doing that anymore has really sucked the joy out of it in a lot of ways because I don't have that element, the social element of going to a place to get my movies.
yeah.
So
No, I know exactly what you mean. And you're saying about the box art and things like that. That I mean, you'd hire films that you'd never heard of just on the box art alone. You'd
yeah,
look at it and you'd read the back and you'd look at the front, and it didn't matter who was in it, who directed it. You'd go, I'm watching that. Looks amazing. That looks right up my street. I'm going to watch that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like there's like an element of like like a decision making process that happened there where it's like just makes it more rewarding because then it's almost like you're out with like a metal detector trying to like find treasure. And
Exactly.
and so then when you find something that's great, it's that much better. Like I remember watching Halloween for the first time, and I remember popping the tape out. As soon as it was finished, I like popped the tape out and I ran upstairs and like showed it off to my parents. I don't know why I wanted to do that, but I was just so excited by the movie that I was like, "Have you guys seen this Halloween movie? It's so good." And I think I went back downstairs and watched it again. So like that joy was such a great feeling in that era. And even like even think back to like watching like the worst movies, like just watching terrible movies. But the fact you had to go like rent it and put the effort in, it
Yeah.
was like it was still kind of worth it, like renting. I remember renting, I think it was Battlefield Earth for a sleepover party at one point, and just being like, God, this movie sucks, but I'm still like having a good time. With my friends. We're socializing. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know,
We're
nowadays,
taking the piss out of it.
taking the piss out and like it's still this like communal experience, and you still like, I don't know, there's still like elements of like a movie like that that I enjoy because watching it in that context. And nowadays, I'm as guilty of this as anyone, where it's like I'll put something on streaming and I'll stop 5 minutes in and be like, oh, I can go do something else because there's no effort involved, you know?
No,
So
you're right.
so you suck the effort out of it and you lose the attention. Like it's the benefit of still going to the theater. It's the one time a movie gets my undivided attention is when I go to the movie theater and I sit down and I watch it. Um, because yeah, it's like you have to get off your ass and go do it. You have to like drive down to the place and sit there in the theater. So that effort automatically makes me want to get my money's worth and my time's worth out of it. It's like, well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch this thing, even if I hate it, and I'm going to bitch about it after if it sucks. So,
So, saying about the going to the cinema, I've got to ask: have you seen Deadpool and Wolverine?
yes, we went and saw that. I think it was opening weekend. I was actually at the Fantasia Festival for the premiere of Frankie Freako, and I believe it was the next day or the day, it was like opening day for that movie, and I was like, I just got to go get this out of the way because I know the conversation around it is gonna be so endlessly obnoxious that the only way I'm going to enjoy it is if I go in totally cold.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
so, yeah, and like I don't know, I feel like I'm not allowed to say I had fun watching it. But I don't know. Like,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the cameos were great. I had it was good fun. It was so much fun. I laughed all the way through it.
yeah, I mean, I like kind of worry about the effect this could potentially have on just movies as a whole because it's been so successful. Like, kind of like the Spider-Man No Way Home. It's this effect of like, okay, well, is all people care about is like digging up stuff from the past, and is that it? Like, I feel like we're already in like a real nostalgia rut. Um, but yeah, that movie, because it's been so successful, I'm like worried that it's just going to be every movie's just going to be that now. But to me,
Yeah,
it's like you treat it as like disposable entertainment, and it like they're basically just funhouse rides at this point. You're just like in a little cart, and you look over and it's like, oh look, it's so and so. Oh look, it's
yeah,
that character. I remember that guy. I remember Toad from X-Men. Like it's yeah, it's the South Park member berries. It's just like, hey, remember this thing? So in that on that level, like yeah, I had a great time. Lots of solid laughs. I'm not gonna like think about it too hard. Um, but
but
yeah,
because it's not there to be thought about, it's just there for you to have set entertain, and on that
yeah.
level, it done. It
I
done.
but
Which films are there to entertain at the base core of it? That's films are there to entertain.
yeah, I mean, I do find like movie culture right now, it's like if your movie doesn't have something to say, then it's like not just a waste of time, but it's like somehow like an affront to people's sensibilities. Uh, so yeah, something like that that like yes, you can paint it as like a very cynical studio move, like and it's like a Marvel uh kind of like course correct to an extent just to be like hey, the past few things we did were didn't really take off, so we dug up Wolverine again. You guys like Wolverine, right? Like, yes, you can frame it all as that, as like this very
Yeah,
cynical, uh, kind of like studio Disney move. But but yeah, for the like 2 hours I was in the theater, I was having fun, and I can't deny that. Like, I was enjoying myself. So like, I'm not gonna like start screaming and gnashing my teeth about it and say it's the death of cinema. Um, but yeah, I kind of it's weird. I feel like I'm not allowed to say that, sort of. Like I feel
yeah.
like especially yeah, go ahead.
No, I know exactly what you're saying because the likes of Scorsese and others coming out against Marvel films, filmmakers aren't supposed to say, "Oh, I enjoy a Marvel film." It's just, it's they're nothing. They're not there to be thought about. They're just there to entertain. Popcorn movies, like the comics. The comics were supposedly disposable. You
Yeah.
know, they were there to be enjoyed, read, and enjoyed, then passed on to your mate for your mate to read it, and then swapped comics and that kind of, you know,
I mean, the problem is like the difference is like a movie like Deadpool versus or Deadpool meets Wolverine or whatever it's called is like that's like a what $200 million movie and it's
yeah,
making like $1 billion. Like the problem is that like the footprint of that on culture is so much bigger than like an issue of Deadpool in
yeah,
the comic books. I think that's the difference is like the media culture has shifted so much that it's not a harmless thing on a rack in a store. It's especially with this movie, like I'm still seeing ads for it everywhere. So it's like this is being forced down our throats, whether we like it or not. And you know, I just think about like all the indie movies that
yeah,
maybe could have like 1% of that attention. It's just crazy. The divide is so huge, and I worry this movie's just going to make it even bigger. Because yeah, even on my level, it's like trying to get any money to make
Oh, I can
Deathstalker
imagine.
is insane. It's like the film filmmaking world now is like you either make a thing for no money or you make a thing for all the money. And
Yeah,
there really isn't an in between. Like,
but and
so
that
yeah,
and the thing is, there used to be, and the video market kind of bolstered that middle
yeah,
ground. You know what I mean? The films that get made for next to no money, you Roger Cormans and the likes of that would
yeah.
be out there in the VHS shop for you to hire, your full moon stuff, and the
Well,
likes of.
because also like the video market, it was like quantifiable. Like you
Mm,
could track of like how many tapes were sold, how often it was rented. Like it was all like numbers that you could account for and be like, okay, Puppet Master 3 made this much money and Trancers 2 made this much money. Whereas now it's like because of streaming, it's just kind of vague as to like what's making money. So like a streamer just offers you an amount to buy your movie and it's like you kind of just have to take it. You don't have anything to weigh
yeah,
against that. So yeah, I feel like it's an industry that has been disrupted and is trying to find its footing again. I mean, the positive is that I feel like genre movies, even if they have to be stupidly low budget, it's like they're always successful. It's nice to know that like every horror movie that goes to theaters now is what was the last like horror movie that was a bomb in theaters necessarily, at least in North America? Like if it costs 2 million to make and it makes $5 million, like that's still turning a profit. So
yeah, that's it. So yeah, horror is the only genre that still makes money. Always has been and always will be.
yeah, like I don't think it's ever going to go out of fashion necessarily. And like, was there ever a time where it was out of fashion? It was more less the time of it being out of fashion, more a time of like finding what the next like thing was, you know?
Yeah,
Like kind of like the like kind of 90s pre-Scream era was a little bit of like, it's like that Wes Craven trying stuff out that wasn't necessarily landing, like the shockers and that kind of thing before it
I loved
like
Shocker. I've got the
I
novelization as well.
they did a novelization of Shocker.
Yeah,
I don't love that movie. I want to. I think that's the problem is I hyped it up in my head like I was gonna love it because it seems like something I would be all over. But I don't know. It just kind of bored me a bit. I'm pretty like lukewarm on a lot of Wes Craven stuff, which sure will piss off a lot of people. I mean, I love People Under the Stairs, speaking of people. Um, that movie is,
great film.
I feel like it's
And
like a weird 90s Texas Chainsaw like suburban Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a way.
yeah, I know where you're
Like,
coming from. I know where you're coming from there.
but
But no,
that's actually, so go ahead.
no, you, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say like, uh, there's like so much weirdness to that movie. It's just like when his movies click, they click really well, and that one lands well for me. And I was actually thinking about revisiting it recently, so I might do my classic move of putting it on in the background while I'm working on other stuff, uh, so I can pretend like I'm still watching movies.
So I take it you're still all about the practical effects and very little CGI because I can see that in your movies, and also you like your physical media.
Oh yeah, no, I love my physical media. I just bought when I was at Fantasia, I bought that movie The Instructor from Vinegar Syndrome. Vinegar
Oh
Syndrome
yeah,
always sets up a Fantasia, and I just can't resist. So I always have to get like one movie as like a little treat for myself. Even like at Walmart the other day, I bought in their like big discount bin that they have. I got it was a Jaws 2, 3, and 4. It was like a three pack of on DVD of Jaws 2, 3, and 4. So I was like, Well, I don't own these and I would like to watch them again someday. A bit of it is like just the paranoia of like, well, when I want to watch this thing, am I going to be able to watch it? Like, I had the
Yeah.
hardest time trying to track down, was it Amityville 3D? Like, even trying to torrent it, I couldn't find it. So I just had to go to like a used book and movie store in Toronto and dig around, and I found like an old beat up DVD of it that I got. Um, really wasn't worth the hunt, but I'm still glad that I saw it. So
We
yeah,
all
after
know.
that, I'd rather just buy the movies and have them
Yeah,
so
just in
I
case.
can access.
I'm the same. I rip everything as well. Well, if I buy something on Blu-ray, I rip it so it's more easy accessible than, especially for myself, than going down into me movie, because I've got a movie room downstairs which is all nice and whistles and bells. Um,
Right.
but we all know the best Amityville films, Amityville 2.
Amityville 2 is great. It's like so dark. It
Yeah,
is such an unpleasant movie, but man, is it good. The atmosphere to it is great.
yeah, it is. Um, Now, going back to Manborg, I watched it again recently and noticed, I mean, the amount of little nods and homages in there. You've got Terminator, RoboCop, Rotor, I'm guessing,
Oh
and
yeah.
um, and the
Soda.
Vindicator,
Yep.
um,
Indicator's a good one.
Highlander 2 with the flying disc
The hoverboard
type
guys,
thing.
yep.
Yeah, and a bit of Gladiator thrown in with the obviously the fights.
Yep.
Um,
I'm one of those people that loves Gladiator, even though it's another movie I feel like I'm not allowed to like anymore. People like to rip on it, and it's like, but it's just like just a fun movie. What's wrong with
yeah,
that?
yeah, it is such a great film, and obviously the stop motion work reminds me a lot of Dave Allen's work for Full Moon.
Oh
Um,
yes. The stop motion is definitely like, well, I mean, I wish it was as good as David Allen, but like that's definitely what I was watching at that time when I was doing the 2 years of post production for that movie.
Friggin' hell. It is, and I can remember, as I say, getting it given. And I'm guessing Father's Day being released by Troma must have been a little bit of a dream come true. Getting
I mean,
a
more so for the other guys, I'm not like a big Trauma head. Uh,
right,
like, yeah, like I think everybody sees that because of just Astron Six's output and because of Father's Day, but like, I feel like I remember Adam pushing Toxic Avenger on me and like making me watch it at one point. Um, and like that's not to say I don't respect it. I like watching that stuff with friends, but I'm not like a trauma head in the way a lot of like cult film people are. So
yeah.
I was a little indifferent to the whole like, hey, Troma wants us to make a movie, but like the excuse to just make a lot of trashy, weird shit um, was certainly fun. And like the climax of that movie too, it was an opportunity for me to pull it away from Troma a little bit. I tried to go. I wanted it all to have like a bit of a Fulci vibe, like all the stuff in Hell. Uh, it's just very like brown and beige and gross, and because I feel like a lot of his movies are like that. Like The Beyond has a lot of that, like kind of earthy
Well,
tones.
I meant to
So yeah.
mention, you mentioned Fulci, and that was another one I thought Insane, Insanophobia had a touch of the Fulcis and The Void.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's definitely Fulci in both. I mean, the ending to The Void is very Fulci-esque. It's like slightly more optimistic, I would say. But it's very much like the same vibe as that.
As the Beyond, that ending in the
Yeah.
Beyond when yeah, completely. I well, the first time I watched it and the way they hold hands and stuff like that, I thought it's the Beyond, and there's so much in there. City of the Living Dead and the Beyond were the two that
Oh yeah.
I thought were so much. Sorry for changing the subject there. Just when you mentioned Fulci, and I
Oh,
had
it's
to
all
get
good.
it out because if I didn't, this brain just forgets things. Um,
All
it,
good. I get it.
but yeah, I mean that Fulci vibe, and obviously there was a touch of Prince of Darkness in the Void as well.
Yes. Yeah,
Carpenter.
I mean, like these were definitely movies that, like in initial conversations, we were kind of like, this is sort of the flavor we're going for. It evolved. All these things, like they all start from kind of simple roots and then they evolve into their own thing. Like The Void definitely became its own thing very quickly. Um, but you can still see the seeds of stuff like that kind of sprinkled throughout. Um, because yeah, our goal with that one especially was like, even though there is familiar elements to it, was we wanted to make an original thing and we wanted to make a scary thing above all else. Like the idea of actually making a movie, like a monster movie that wasn't just schlock, for us in that era seemed like a real
Yeah,
challenge that was pursuing. Um, and yeah, it proved to be like an insane undertaking that broke me and Jeremy mentally in a lot of ways. But it I think it turned out okay. People seem to like it. So
I bought it day release in England. I went to HMV and picked it up day release because it hadn't had a cinema release anywhere near me. So it was one of those. I need to see this film. Came home and fired into me cinema setup and sat and watched it, and just I've watched it so many times. And one of the
well, that
lads is
sucks.
actually we're doing an episode of off-brand HP Lovecraft films or
Oh
inspired
yeah,
by. And one of the lads has already mentioned, he went, I'm going with the Void when we do it.
sweet.
So we'll be, and it's been brought up quite a few times on the shows over the
Yeah,
years. The Void, it's
definitely like Lovecraft adjacent.
yeah,
It's like inspired more by like the tone of his stuff more than anything.
yes,
But yeah, I mean, I was, especially growing up, I was huge into Lovecraft. When I discovered his stuff, it was just blowing my brain reading it. Like, and just the overall concept of like unknowable things is something that
mm,
I think a lot of horror movies were missing, at least at that time. Um, and like sort of adjacent to that, the Blair Witch Project was a big influence too, because I think it actually delivers on the Lovecraft promise of like you never see the thing
mm,
that whatever the horrible thing is, you never see it. And I feel like that was Lovecraft's gimmick in text, at least. And a lot of people think they interpreted that as like, oh, we got to show like more tentacle monsters and stuff. But like Blair Witch, I feel like it has there's like an unease and just a horror to it of like wanting closure and not getting it that makes it so nightmarish. And so like not that I would say The Void does that necessarily, but it was definitely part of the inspiration for us was like, well, what if we like held back and there was gore and effects and transformation things, but like let's not like let's not like live in it in the way that like a schlockier movie would. Like
yeah.
trying like things servicing the story and servicing the atmosphere as opposed to just like like some of my other movies where it's like I'm gonna hold on a weird monster transformation for a really long time because it's fun. So yeah, yeah, like always trying
But
to
no,
operate in terms of like trying to provoke some kind of terror instead of just like, hey, look at this cool effect.
and it is, as I said, superb movie. And I know everyone who I've spoke to about it holds in very high respect. And it's certainly one of the best kind of cosmic horror films of recent years.
Well, I
Because
appreciate
again, it's
that.
got that vibe.
It's a movie that like didn't seem to click with people when it came out, and it was a little disappointing. Uh, like especially at our like world premiere, really felt like the audience just was not. I don't want to say not getting it, but like I don't know if that was the movie they wanted to watch at midnight on a Friday. I think everyone was like, a few beers deep and wanted a Manborg or a Father's Day, and what they got was like something a little more, uh, a little more thoughtful than that, and a little bit more restrained as well. So
I
yeah,
think
but I'm
that's
glad.
I think it's an ideal movie to watch about midnight after a few beers or a bong or two. You know what I mean? It's an ideal movie to watch.
Well, I feel like people figured it out now, but at the time, I think,
Yeah.
and this is, this is the issue with making movies where you're straddling genres is like you get you get a full spectrum in the audience of people who like are there just for the schlock, and then there's people there that just want the like art of it, and it's like
Mm.
you're never going to satisfy everybody. So that's why I've just hard committed to like, well, I'm going to make a movie that makes me happy, and if it makes some people happy, that's good. And if it pisses other people off, it's like, that's fine. Lots of movies annoy the hell out of me. But, this thing,
um,
at least I know that the movie I made is like, it makes me happy when I'm watching it. So, yeah,
well,
now that's my priority.
I think that should be every filmmaker's priority. But I suppose it's hard when studios get involved in things as we've mentioned before. Um, Psycho Goreman, I've got to mention it because it's absolutely incredible film. Um, it's as if the Power Rangers and television were thrown into a blender, and out comes Psycho Goreman. That was when I first saw it. I
Yeah.
went, Power Rangers, television with the effects and things like that. Throw it in a blender. You've got Psycho Goreman, and it is fantastic. It was just so entertaining.
It's definitely like going back to like kind of my pure vision as a filmmaker, like that one, because it was independently financed and I had such a great team of producers and people associated with it that like were there to support the vision. Everybody was on the same page. It's like kind of the only time I've like written a script or treatment or anything and passed it off and people are like, yeah, this is great. Let's make this. Like usually there's more of a process and a back and forth, but it really felt like everybody was on the same page. And yeah, it was like, hectic and tough to shoot like all indie movies are, but it was also hilarious and fun. Like we all had big laughs on it. I think everybody had a good time and made really nice memories doing it. Uh, and yeah, I think it shows on screen. It's like it's got a great vibe and a great personality, that movie. I'm very happy with how it turned out.
I mean, it's even got a fantastic end credits rap song, which so reminded me of Partners in Crime, Turtle Power,
Yeah, well,
which
that was one of the inspirations was
I
that
thought it would be.
that one. I think that was like their Blitz Berlin's like main influence. My my memory of an end credits song that influenced it was when I went to see the remake of Assault on Precinct 13. Like I think it was 2005 or
Yeah,
2006. But the end credits to that movie has a rap that's about the movie, but it's like, but it even like breaks the fourth wall and they like name drop Ethan Hawke and Lawrence Fishburne. So it's like there's like an extra layer to it that's funny. But I just remember walking out of the theater and like hearing their names and being like, wait, so the song's like not just about the movie, but it's about the movie as a movie. Like it's aware the songwriters are aware of it being actors portraying these characters, which made me
yeah.
laugh. And so ever since then, it's been like I gotta have a rap song that's like about the movie in some way. And yeah, those guys, Blitz Berlin, they completely nailed it. I can't heap enough praise on those guys. They're the best. I love them as composers because they know how to do like music that like the music, the score that carries the movie, but also the songs within the movie that are like part of the universe, not just of the movie itself, but treating the movie as a movie. Like I was saying with
Yeah.
the some Precinct 13 song, like there's songs where they kind of come up with a whole kind of backstory to this fake band that they're pretending to be when they play the songs. And so they did that on PG. They've done it on Frankie Freako as well. They've got a bunch of awesome tunes in that one. So I'm excited for people to hear them.
Um, you've mentioned Frankie Freako. I'm looking forward to seeing it. All I've seen is the teaser and the artwork, and from that, I'm picking up a bit of a Ghoulies vibe, stroke. I mean, you've even got a character in there called Mr. Beekler. So,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
it's Ghoulies Go to College was the big inspiration for me. Like I've watched that movie so many times now, and it definitely sparked the idea in my brain of like the world needs a movie this dumb again. So it was like in the way that The Void was trying to like challenge Jared and I challenging ourselves making a serious movie that's scary. For me, it was like with Frankie, it's like how can I be serious and creative about making the dumbest thing possible? And so it's like very silly, I think very charming. It's like yeah, it's there's nothing like this out there. So I'm excited for audiences to watch it. This is a movie. I feel like this is the movie that midnight crowd was after, was something that yeah, you have a few beers and you're a little tipsy and you just get carried away by a whole lot of puppet nonsense. And it goes to some pretty wild places. Like if you know my movies, you know that I don't settle for a limp third act. It always needs to go big. So so expect that. Expect some crazy shit to go down.
I
So
can't
yeah, I'm
wait. I
excited.
mean, obviously, I'll be seeing it when it gets a physical release, because I can't expect it to get a cinema release over in England, unless it plays at one of the festivals. But no, I can't
I
wait
mean,
to see it. It
it
really
might.
looks. It really looks. It looks right up my street, and does remind me of the Ghoulies films with a touch of the Garbage Pail Kids movie thrown in
Yes, a little
there.
bit of Garbage Pail Kids, a little bit of Munchie as well. Not Munchies, Munchie specifically.
Yeah,
The second, I guess the second one, even though it's sort of its own thing. But
yeah.
yeah, big fan of Munchie and Munchie Strikes Back. So yeah, me and my DOP Pierce, who shot the film, he like during the pandemic and kind of like tail end of the pandemic, he'd always do like Twitch streams of cult movies. And I got him on this kick of like, hey, let's start just watching like little monster movies. So we watched everything, like every little monster movie there is, we watched it, like and marathoned it. So it was really taxing on the brain, but it was good research for Frankie Freako. So yeah, if you're into like Ghoulies, Munchie, Gremlins, even like anything in that vein.
It
And
is.
obviously a lot of like there's a lot of full moon to this one as well. Maybe the most full moon of all my movies. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant! I'm really looking forward to seeing that because, as I say, I've just seen the teaser and I've seen the artwork. Plus, I've seen two of the dolls. I've seen you carrying in
Yep.
an interview that you did, and I just thought this just looks, right up my street. It looks a proper good throwback to that kind of 80s, early 90s time of when they were doing, films like that. And I really just can't wait to see it. Same with Deathstalker because I've been a fan of the originals, and I know I'm a friend of Jim Wynorski who directed the second one. He
Oh,
also
really?
done Ghoulies 4 as well.
Right.
Um,
And
and
Return of Swamp Thing, which I just rewatched the other day, and that's a great movie.
Thank you. It's the best version of Swamp Thing
Yes.
out there.
Yeah, I think so. That suit looks awesome in that
It
movie.
does.
Like
It does.
clearly they knew where to put the money, and they put the money into that suit because it fucking rules.
Yeah. I'll send you a link to a. I done an interview with Jim, the first interview I ever did actually, and it's all
Oh,
about
cool.
Return of the Swamp Thing.
Oh, wicked.
And it
We'll
tells a
listen to
few
that.
little behind the scenes stories about Tommy Lee turning up because he was dating Heather at the time, and Charlie Sheen was on
Nice.
set. So there's a few little stories, and Jim's a bit of a character, and he doesn't give a monkeys. To be honest, he's a great character.
I
Um,
mean, that guy's done so many movies at this point. He's earned the right, kind of like a John Carpenter. He's earned the right to just not give a shit about anything anymore. Like
that's
he
it, and he
gets a free,
doesn't. And
and like
yeah, and his films are still all about monsters and tits and ass.
yeah,
You know,
well, and Deathstalker 2 to me is the best Deathstalker. Like maybe that's a hot take for some people, but that's the one I always go back to. That's the most fun. Uh, and like I think all of it comes down to like well, the casting of John Terlesky, I think is great, but also just Jim's like whimsical nature. It's just a fun, light movie, moves at a good pace,
yeah,
lots of laugh out loud moments. So yeah,
because a lot like myself, I know you like that sweet spot of movies that kind of between 80 minutes to 100 minutes. You know,
yes,
that's it. That's that sweet spot for me. And I've
yeah.
said in an interview you like that.
Oh yes. Well, Frankie Freako, I'm proud to say, I think it's like 82 minutes,
Oh,
which
lovely.
I was I was so excited when I saw that final runtime. I was like, yes, I finally did it. And like even at the world premiere of Fantasia, it just went down so smooth. Like there was no fat. People like it was like over before people even knew what hit them. Like to me, that's especially a movie like that, like a lighter, sillier movie. It's like you want it to be like a good stand-up set. Like you don't want to overstay your welcome. You want to like come in, hit people with a bunch of jokes, and then run out before they knew what happened. So yeah, I'm always trying to hit that sweet spot. I feel like Deathstalker, it's gonna be tough. I'm gonna try to get it at that manageable length. It'd be amazing if I got it to 90 minutes, but we'll see. There's a lot crammed into that movie. There's a lot of stuff.
But
Maybe the most I've ever put.
sometimes, sometimes like Deadpool and Wolverine, that 2 hours can be just enough as well. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, if you cram enough stuff into your movie, you can justify it. So yeah, as long as there's
Exactly.
no
If you
fat
keep
then.
the pace going, that's it. If you
Yeah.
keep that pace going nicely, then there's never a problem with a longer movie, ever to
Yep.
be honest. But the sweet spot is that kind of 80 minutes to 100 minutes,
Well,
and it
especially
means that sometimes.
sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry.
Uh, to be honest, I don't even remember what I was going to say. So you might as well just go ahead.
I mean, especially with it means you in a 3 hour period you can get two films in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's easier to marathon those types of movies. Like I find it's easier to watch like full moon movies back to back because they're so tight typically. They're never over 90 minutes. So
No,
yeah,
I've just started rewatching the Ginger Dead Man movies and Evil Bong movies.
sweet.
So I've not
Sweet. So
watched
that's
them
what
for a long time.
90s into like late 90s into 2000s era full moon,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
It's a weird.
I mean, I do. I've got a partial love for Full Moon, which you can see a lot in your stuff as well. And the Empire Days when Trances. Love the Trances films.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Trancers 3, the trailer for Trancers 3 is like one of my favorite pieces of media ever. I love that it's just like the whole movie crammed into like 2 minutes. It's great.
I mean, I've got them all on VHS bar six. So it's a nice little transfers collection there. But I think we've been through absolutely everything, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Well,
And
thanks for that.
I don't want to keep you from work. To be honest, I could sit and talk with you for another hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, because I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you. And it's not felt like
Yeah.
an interview, if you know what I mean.
Well, let's just do it again sometime. I'm down.
Oh,
I
definitely.
welcome the distractions sometimes. So yeah.
Well, always down for a chat, Steve. I'll do an outro. If you stick around after the outro, I'll have a quick chat with you after the outro as well. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure having the legend that is Steve Kostanski.
Pleasure.
Got it right there.
That was better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was better. And no, you're absolutely legendary filmmaker. Guy who knows how to make a cracking kind of throwback movie to the feels of the 80s video shops and 90s video shops, and it's great. It's been a pleasure having you on. I've been PD. That's been Steve. Thank you all very much. Good night. God bless.
Peace out.